Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week I am doing a massive unhaul, but I am also going to put all of these books up for sale on my PangoBooks account. Disclaimer, I have mentioned some of these books in previous unhauls, but because I am putting them up for sale, I wanted just one video that you could reference to see the actual books that I will be mentioning. Sorry, I mean selling on my PangoBooks account. Hopefully this isn't a long and rambly video because I do have a lot of books to get through, but if it does seem a little bit longer than usual, I do apologize. And of course, if you do feel interested in anything, please feel free to click on the link in my description box to my PangoBooks account. Kicking off this unhaul list is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. Now, I actually haven't read this, but the reason I am unhauling it is because I have not read it. I haven't felt motivated to pick it up. I read Mary H.K. Choi's Emergency Contact as an ebook and I liked it. I thought it was okay, but I wasn't rushing to read anything else by the author. I do have Yoke sitting on my bookshelf still because I heard really great things about that one, but this one I don't think I'm going to get to it. To be perfectly honest, the only reason I picked this up was because I thought the cover was really cool. That's it. And this is in pretty good condition. I would say this is like new, and I figured I should probably give this to someone who will actually read it and enjoy it. I believe I have this listed for either $4 or $5 on PangoBooks. Like I said, that link will be in the description box below. Like new condition, nothing wrong with this book. I don't think. I haven't read it. I don't know. Just not my cup of tea. Next is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, and this is actually a book that my husband purchased because he read this in its entirety. A couple of years ago, I had this video series idea that my husband and I would pick a book to read and discuss it afterwards. So I think this was around the time that the first movie was releasing, so I thought, well, this would be appropriate. He actually read it, which I am thoroughly impressed because that man is not a reader, let alone a YA romancy type book, so he's a trooper. I did not read this. The video series idea ended up falling apart. I never went anywhere with it. I'm not really into YA contemporary. It doesn't hold my attention, and I figured, why keep this on our shelves, taking up space when someone else might enjoy it? Which reminds me, if you are interested in wanting to watch my husband and I read books and discuss them, let me know. I know there's a few booktubers out there who've done that, read books and reviewed them with their significant others, so it's nothing new or original, but if you'd like to see like our points of view, let me know down in the comments. Next up we have Sadie by Courtney Summers. This is also like a YA mystery podcast type book, like it has podcast sections in here. Again, nothing wrong with this book. I think it was a really interesting format and it was an interesting book, period. I just can't see myself rereading this, and with the limited space that I have on my bookshelves, I really need to start getting rid of books. This is also in like new condition. A lot of my books, as you will see, are in like new or pretty good condition. I do my very best to take care of my books, so you're never gonna find writing in them. Some of my older books might be stained just because I wasn't always the most careful with like the spines or the pages. Anything from when I started booktube is in pretty good condition. Next up, I have this paperback copy of Reign the Earth by A.C. Gaughan. This is, I remember, like an elemental story. Like there are communities of earth people, air people, fire people, I believe. It's elemental magic based, and I just remember I wasn't very impressed with it. I expected a lot more. I think I expected more Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that was not this. This is one that I got in a book subscription box. I could not tell you which one, but it is the Lanterns Ember by Colleen Hook. This book, stunning cover, absolutely love it. I keep telling myself I'm going to read it every October, and I think for the past 3 Octobers I have not picked up this book. This book has not been read. This is in like new, mint condition. I've never read it. I don't know. I can't tell you. I think it's about witches. It is. So this is a witchy book. I can't tell you any more than that, but this cover is stunning and I think it needs to go to a better home. Next up, I have Mirage by Samaya Dodd. This was my very first bookish subscription box book. This was in the Fairy Lou September of 2018, I believe. It has purple sprayed edges and I remember being so excited for my first subscription box, and then after I read this book, I was less excited. From what I remember, this book mixes in fantasy magic with also like a little bit of sci-fi. I actually had this book on my bookshelves, like right in between the fantasy and the sci-fi, because there are androids in here and like machines and robots. So it has those things, but also magic as well. So it's an interesting concept. I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't the book for me. Next, I have Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa, and I thought that I would absolutely love this book because it is the same author who wrote the Iron Fae series, but I was not into it. It felt kind of drawn out, like they went on a lot of like mini adventures that didn't really apply to the overall goal of what they were trying to do, and it just felt unnecessary. Like we didn't need to go on these 2 mini quests, and I didn't love the main character. She just seemed really juvenile. I can't remember what her age is. This is a YA. I can't remember what the age was, but she just seemed extremely juvenile. I didn't love it. It wasn't for me. I did get this in a subscription box. I can't remember which one, so it is signed by the author. Next up, I have Sea Witch Rising by Sarah Henning, and this is actually the second book in a duology. The first book is Sea Witch, which I absolutely loved. I didn't love this second book, which is the reason why I'm getting rid of it, but I know it's kind of weird that it's only going to be book 2. This one was just like too political. It just wasn't magical or fantasy anymore, and I didn't really love it, so I'm getting rid of it because again, I need more space. Next, I have Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This has to do with the Greek gods and mythology, and I just didn't think it was very well executed. I didn't like the main character or just anything really that happened in the book. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was a well executed plot, but that's just my opinion. It might be your new favorite book. I'm also unhauling Strange Girl by Christopher Pike. This is like a paranormal mystery YA book. I don't really remember too much other than I thought that it was way too weird. It did end open-ended, and I hate open endings, so this just truly was not the book for me. Next, I have Damsel by Ilana K. Arnold, and this is a very interesting book because it is a retelling, but not of a particular fairy tale, but of the damsel locked in a tower, Prince Charming coming to save her trope. Although I think it is very interesting and it was well done, I think there was just a lot of unnecessary triggering things in this book. Physical assault, I think there was sexual assault, animal abuse. Like it was just triggering for me, and I think that if this is a book that you want to purchase, I would thoroughly look up the trigger warnings so you are fully prepared. Next, I have Shout by Lori Halls Anderson, and I believe this is like a memoir type book. The author opens up about her rape experience and how she processed it and everything that happened to her. I haven't actually read this book. I bought it from my local used bookstore, and I just don't think I am in the mental place to read this. With the memoir that I just showed you, I also have Speak by Lori Halls Anderson, and this is the fictionalized story of a sexual assault survivor that the author wrote. Again, I'm just not in the mental place to be able to read this. I am also unhauling 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. This is a book that deals with suicide, so look up all of the trigger warnings to make sure this is the right book for you. This has been sitting on my shelf for a while. I read this when I was younger, and it's just not a book that I'm going to reread. I am also unhauling This Book Is Not Good For You by Pseudonymous Bosch, and contrary to the title, this book might be good for you. This is actually book 3 of his Secret series, and the only reason I am unhauling this is because I'm trying to collect this series in hardback. So this is obviously the paperback. The cover is a little damaged and dented, so it's not in pristine condition as I would like to keep my books. I bought this when I was, I think, in junior high, so it's been with me for a really long time, and it's just a little stained, old, and weathered. I am also unhauling Percy Jackson and the Olympians, a middle grade series by Rick Riordan, soon to be a Disney Plus series, and while I will be tuning into that, I've outgrown middle grade. It doesn't call my attention, unfortunately, and I tried to read this and I tried to love it, and I just can't. I've outgrown it, unfortunately. I wish I could love it, but I don't. But I will be tuning into the Disney Plus series, and I think you should too. Also, unhauling Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. This is a very short book, and I love this cover. I think that's why I've kept it around for a while, because I love this cover. I just think it's very mysterious. This is a YA mystery. It's not like a very thrilling mystery. It's very low-key, but I do feel like the suspense builds up with each chapter. It wasn't enough for me to reread it though. I thought it was interesting, just not enough to reread it. I'm also unhauling A Face Like Glass by Frances Harding. Again, I think this cover is so interesting, which is why I've kept it around for a while. I just thought this one was weird. It's very abstract. I couldn't even tell you, is this a YA or an adult? I think it's YA. It's just a magical fantasy type book, but it's weird. I know that at the time, I think I described it like it gave me Wonderland vibes because it was so odd. I think this one had more of like a clear plot and things kind of tied together, but still it was too odd for me to enjoy and want to reread again. Also unhauling Rubbernecker by Belinda Bauer. This is an adult mystery. I think this is an adult mystery. I remember that we were told the story from 3 different points of view who you think don't relate to each other, and then at the end, boom, boom. I thought it was interesting. I think this one was interesting, but again, it just wasn't enough for me to want to reread it, and if I am not going to reread it, then I don't need it sitting on my shelf. Also unhauling People Like Us by Dana Mele. This is a YA mystery that takes place at boarding school, so if you're into boarding school mysteries, here's one that you can have. I think I only read it once, and I don't even think I read this book. I might have read this as an ebook. So if you want like brand new hardcovers that probably haven't been opened yet, check out my PangoBooks account because I have them at discounted prices. Also gotta get rid of The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I did have The Cruel King as well, the Barnes & Noble edition, but that one actually sold already, so I only have book 1 on my storefront. This is a series that a lot of people enjoyed. I know there's a ton of fan art for it. I didn't really see the hype. I think it was cool, but I didn't see the hype. I did like the main character, Jude. I understand the fascination and hype with her. I didn't even have this displayed on my shelves. It was in the cupboard portion of my bookcase. Also getting rid of Pretend She's Here by Luann Rice. This is a YA mystery abduction story and toxic adults, and I honestly can't remember anything else other than that. Like, that's how just unmemorable this book was for me. I feel like I'm not really selling these to you. You might love this. I saw reviews where people enjoyed it. I just was not one of those people, but you might be. Or you might be interested in Beware That Girl by Tessa Toden. I believe this features a high school scholarship student who is trying to climb the social ladder. So I feel like in most books, the scholarship student is always very meek and humble and, you know, trying not to draw attention to themselves. But in this one, it's the opposite. She actually wants to reach the top. She's trying to hang out with the it girls, be a part of that clique, and that actually causes her problems instead of helping her. Also, finally unhauling Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is one that has been sitting on my shelf for a while as well because I think it was very hyped. I remember seeing the PR boxes that some of the bigger booktubers got. I kept telling myself that I was going to read it, and I just never got around to it. I've never been interested in reading it. So this is another brand new book that I bought at Barnes & Noble and never even cracked it open. Also unhauling Nemesis by Brendan Reichs. This is actually a book that my husband bought, and he started it but never finished it. I think he only made it like 3 chapters in. I actually did read this book, and it is a sci-fi kind of doomsday apocalyptic. There's an asteroid that's heading for Earth that's going to destroy the planet, but we also have 2 characters who have very unique situations happening to them, which I think we later find out is tied to the asteroid. I really enjoyed this book. I was really into it up until we got to the end. At the end, it kind of turned into a Hunger Games situation, I feel like, where only one person can win, and I don't like that. I didn't like the Hunger Games, the reason why I never read it or saw the movies. I wasn't interested in continuing with the series. I do believe this is a trilogy, but all I got for you is book 1. Also getting rid of Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. This is the Owl Crate edition. Other than I thought this book was too complicated for my little brain, this author did some unsavory things that I do not support, so getting rid of that. Sadly, I am unhauling Spell Hacker by M.K. England. M.K. England was the first author whose sci-fi I really enjoyed, which was The Disasters. If you saw my mid-year recap video, you'll know that this book did not live up to the first one. I mean, they're both standalones, but I just expected to enjoy this a lot more than I did. I think I gave it a 2 stars, so I am not interested whatsoever in rereading this. I am also unhauling Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie Miclemore. I think this is supposed to be a retelling of the Black Swan, but I'm not really sure. There is a fairy tale referenced in the book, but I don't know if it was made up for just the book or if it's an actual fairy tale. But this book is really mostly about sisterhood and that special bond that sisters have and how far are we willing to go for our sisters. I thought it was a beautiful book. I liked the writing. I just don't think I was into it enough to want to reread it. This is a fairly recent addition to my shelf. I got this last year during the Barnes & Noble 50% off hardback sale, and that is Into the Blood Red Woods by Martha Brackenbrough, and I read it as an ebook, so this hardback has never been cracked open. This is like new. It is about 2 siblings who are fighting over their kingdom. When their father passed away, instead of just handing the kingdom to one person, he gave half of it to the sister, half of it to the son, but the son did not think that was fair. He needs to rule the entire kingdom. It starts a very bloodthirsty war between the 2 of them, the sister not really wanting to fight her brother but not having another choice. I believe it was too gory though. That's not the reason why I'm unhauling it. Like, the gore is fine, but I'm just letting you know there is a lot of gore in this book. We do have scenes of discrimination. I think it was very dark for a YA. It's not obviously like, oh my god, gasp worthy, but it is just darker than what you would imagine in a YA book. I just thought it was okay. Even with all that gore in there, I just thought it was okay. And finally, the last book I will be unhauling is not one that I thought that I would ever unhaul, just because I went through so much to get my hands on it, and that is Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. I think last year this book was one of my favorites. It absolutely surprised me. I loved it. It's a trilogy, and I went through hell trying to find a hardback, decent condition copy of it, and now I'm unhauling it. Why? I hated the last book. So even though I only have the first book in its physical form, I did read books 2 and 3 as ebooks, and I hated the 3rd book. I think it had nothing on book 1 and 2. That was so disappointing, to love a series so much and then have this disappointing ending. Unlike Sea Witch, I feel like Sea Witch can stand alone, so I don't need the 2nd book. This one cannot stand alone. You need the rest of the books in order to get the full story. So I kind of think like it's pointless to only own the 1st book as much as I love it. According to my camera, this has a raw footage running time of 55 minutes. But I hope you all enjoy it. Those are all of the books that I will have listed in my PangoBooks account. And if you do buy anything, thank you so much for your support. And if you are watching this video and watch the video in its entirety, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Elle. I gotta go sell more books, but I'll see you in next time's video.